the ruling of autopsy. Autopsy, this was an issue also that had been addressed at a very high level. The grand scholars in different fiqh assemblies have addressed the issue of autopsy and the issue of dissection of human bodies in general, whether it is for forensic purposes or it is for educational purposes. The hukm al-tashrih, or the dissection of human bodies in general, is an issue that has been addressed. And the default in this case is impermissibility. And we have to be always aware of the default, because the Prophet ﷺ said, كسر عظم الميت ككسره حيا. كسر عظم الميت ككسره حيا. Breaking the bones of the dead is like breaking the bones of the living. So this is basically to make the mutilation of bodies so abhorrent to Muslims. If you break someone's bones when he's dead, it is like you're breaking their bones while they are alive. So it is a grave sin. It is an enormity to mutilate the bodies, or to break the bones of the dead, or to cut the skin of the dead, do any act of mutilation of dead bodies. Dead bodies are to be buried, whether they are bodies of friends or enemies, Muslims, non-Muslims. Dead bodies are to be buried. The ruling of autopsy is therefore an exception from the default, and the scholars debated over this issue because I have a default of impermissibility of basically dissecting, cutting the cadavers of the dead. I have a default of impermissibility, and then nowadays you have this need for dissection of dead bodies for two purposes. One of them is educational purpose, which is to teach the medical students and doctors in training and things like that. And the other one is for forensic purposes, to be able to discover the causes of crimes when there is suspicion. The final say here is that it is permissible. The very vast majority of the scholars allow dissection of human bodies if there is a valid purpose, and they said that this is not like mutilating dead bodies. When you mutilate dead bodies, you're doing this for nonsense, for basically it's a barbaric behavior to mutilate dead bodies or to cut the dead bodies for no valid, justifiable, honorable purpose. But educating, medical students and doctors in training, or forensic medicine, these are honorable, valid purposes, because without this education, you cannot do surgery on the living, and that is an objective of Sharia. Preservation of life is one of the 5 objectives of Sharia, which are preservation of spirituality, the deen, the religion, preservation of life, preservation of the intellect, preservation of the lineage, and preservation of property. So they said that if it is for this purpose or the other purpose, which is forensic medicine, because to help you identify the cause of death and point out whether it was, or figure out whether it was homicide or suicide or natural death, something like this is also important for the purpose of establishment of justice. Having said that, if we do this, we do need to be as respectful as we can, which is oftentimes what we fail to do. You do see sometimes people become so used to dissecting dead bodies that they lose their respect, and they do it with a lot of recklessness and a lot of disrespect, whether it is in medical schools, whether it is for the purpose of autopsy. You'll have to maintain the necessary respect for the dead bodies, and you also have to obtain the permission, particularly when it is for educational purposes. You have to obtain the permission either from the person himself before his death. He would have indicated before his death that he would allow this to be done to his body, or from the guardians, custodians of the person, al-awsiya, al-awliya, of the person, his immediate kin. But when it comes to autopsy and forensic medicine, even if the permission is not available, but the authorities decided that it should be done, then it must be done for the purpose of the establishment of justice.